Nhìn khi đã kia quay chiến mình, cái con cái nằm được hiện ra.
Yes, we get the Ekpe from the original place where the war made them to disperse.
This is Bata War.
Yes.
Okay.
I do a tap and born and more than I come ever. Men joke for Quebora. It is only called the Nchidu Moyom. Ekpe.
Em không xem cái quỷ em mọi người quỷ cái em sống quỷ
About it. About it.
nếu bị em bà mình ở bên ngoài
Okay.
thì em có được đi xuống quỷ cái xin mọi quỷ cái đấy quỷ đạo đi
About the boy come again and
bạn yes
that the Bosongo, the Moyo, are sort of ornaments which are often used when the Ekpe masquerade is going to start off. The Moyo, he wished he had one, maybe in front of the Ekpe, and the Bosongo is another thing which is often and a sort of an ornament on the Ekpe. When the mask has been assembled, it starts on its journey up to exhibit.
cái ta mẹ nít tôm mỏ cái đi lên nít tôm yên uran cái ta đó khả năng mọi người cũng có thể chịu được.
Okay. I asked when he said that the FX had theirs, Oran had theirs, and I wanted to know who gave it to the other. And he says that the FX had it from the Uran because they were grandchildren of the Uran people, and so they were able to have these things.
Okay.
Me, ntina mo ekuru bodo ntro. Me afe gbe do ngodo anye ebuana ndumake.
Mọi bạn thấy đi đến uran cái before about the family to take first about the free cái đi live on the book cái đi about uran đến cái family cái trái số cái tên này cái mấy gì cái đó mong có cái mới đi gọi rồi.
He said that Iban was a big chief, a paramount chief in Uran, and that whenever, because the FX were mostly grandchildren, and whenever they were building shrines and lodges, then the Iban, the chief, used to put on the king post for them as a significance of as a symbol of authority that they could get on.
Okay. So this is in Urawan when FX were making fake pay.
Yes.
Okay.
He's talked about a fair Sabbath. A fair Sabbath is where you have the Efik Lodge.
Yes.
And that when before they were building, when they were building the first Sabbath, Iban had to put in the.
Okay, that's in Obioko.
Yes.
Okay, during the lifetime of Aoema, I suppose. That's good. Ibanga was, he authorized the establishment of that Efekbe.
Yes.
During his lifetime.
Yes.
Quand il y a que mon papa, où les nam de Yobo, bon one. Et qui a essayé que le Bacarbon, a quan a guy shake a year.
I'm gonna get them.
They got to be good.
Okay. That Iban was really a chief in Uruan. And that his brothers, the elder brother was Macarabon, and the other one,
Bacarbon, you eat.
Bacarabon and Ayita conferred the chieftaincy on him, that they crowned him in Uruan. So he was already crowned a chief in Uruan. And I asked, he said, the other man came from Obioko.
That's the name I can't.
Yeah, you can name the Obioko, the Drobon, and Yakurat.
It is the wrong long. No, therefore, no, okay, you're going wrong. I couldn't back a bone. Yeah, you meant the young Bacarbon from the young effort.
Okay. I'm going to get a Benaka.
No. I don't know who will put Mecca.
He says that Iban was already a chief, and that he went with the royal regalia and crowned Bacarabon a king in Greek town before that man became king.
Yeah, Bacarbon, a kid, a guy, you go to one.
This Bacarabon was a grandson of Uruan, and so the Iban went with the kingship regalia and crowned him chief in Greek town, so he became chief.
Okay. Okay. That would have been contemporary with Aoema, I suppose.
With
Aoema, because that's the one we hear about in Obioko as the first priest king.
Aoema became chief much later.
Okay. You say?
Aoema was crowned chief much later.
Okay.
Than the one he's talking about.
Okay.
Me puedo ser un cock a la Cuban, a que sea un cock a Cambonero.
Why you remove that?
Make a summary.
There's take a song of the kitty. King Edo, is a yammy fun. It's a very fun. They can yaman of mom, you know. Then, country. A woman, a cabin, if we could. She could do the and you can never play a black woman.
He says the Arrows, the Igbos, the Mohia people, they have the Ekwe from Uruan. And I asked, how come? He said in those days, they used to, slaves were sold. People were sold into slavery to the Arrows. And those of them who were Ekwe initiates went along and began to play the Ekwe there. That was how Ekwe got that way.
Those who were enslaved?
Yes.
So it was slaves who brought it to them?
Yes.
Interesting.
What you come to didn't Edu. You get back there with me, America,
He says it's just like the Cubans, the people who were Ekwe initiates went to play the Ekwe in Cuba. So also the slaves who were sold to the Arrows and so on went and played the Ekwe. That was how they had it. Bang more you could remember more in New York when I'm
you make a young, and I am yours. I'm yours, I got it.
Kere buke mo so the young kwedu.
Yeah, very well.
He says in Ado Chukwu, it's likely they have almost all the grades. That the people who went there had been fully initiated into all grades. So it's likely they went with all the grades. That they in Abriba, they have a lot of grades, many grades of Ekpe. They come back or your Ekpe. I don't know which Ekpe Mama Kenya. Again, I'm there. I'm away my joy. It couldn't go to the Ekpe. Again, no more Ekpe can be here.
To kill me, really. I work one so one get the good Sivan, Iban, in Yamba, Yaban, you can be young for men and the young. Yimmy, you can kill a man.
It says that that was possible because in those days, when you became initiated, you have all the authority. But at one stage, when you commit a crime, you commit an unpardonable offense, you'll be sold into slavery. And so, since he was part of the whole system, he had the knowledge, he would go with it. Yes. He says, just like you have been initiated into the Ekpe here, whatever we say is part of you now, you have the knowledge. Wherever you go, you go with that knowledge. Wherever he goes, and then people play Ekpe, then he will exhibit his knowledge and how far he was initiated, the grades to which he was initiated. We come to the BB people, the other BBs.
The come. It is ever in a case he did ever, then you do the good battle. The more she did it, and I'm a long more man again. I come more Kenyan Ekpe.
I get on very so. I can't imagine the different. No, me, my name is Monsieur.
No, it's very for Liam. Come on, Monkey.
Yes. It says the video had the Ekpe through purchase. That they come, show interest, and then the Ekpe grades that they want would be sold to them. And that they did not have the Ekpe before the end of the slave trade. That it was after the abolition of slave trade that they actually bought the Ekpe.
Okay.
Right.
So, if a BBO is mentioned,
I think I wouldn't do me. I think I do a getting yammy queen, and I'm ready to be in America to yammy fun. Didn't Buneba Cuba may break pay. It's a tank, it's the IBBO. Man, you're a woman, the care, if you get on a young who ran, I guess he break pay. A yam, a bename card. Say, boy, you don't be you can.
They are kept to family. Very one moment, me and a get it's where did me run. There is like Kenyan, you making it run a break. Them monk working and them my car,
I called them. A dear Kedo, I'm more can't get back a Cuba break. It's the annual BBO. Then.
They come and tell me more. A year good young one more given before you met more can you to quit your one.
Already more than
Yes.
Yes, he is saying that those Ibibios who were living with in Uruan must have been Ekpe initiates. They were Ekpe initiates. And because of some crime or one reason, they were sold into slavery. So they would go with the Ekpe. We don't have Ekpe. Then, we come to who come over. A woman I'm doing, you do more. It's a person who born in this. I was even a very king.
Cái gì rồi ngồi đi luôn mà đi với bạn mà mọi năm nói chuyện đi với bạn mà cái
They made your medicine too. I give my book a panic. So I say, get down, I cook. Young man, I didn't remember nothing.
For example, we hear this at Takpo Shrine in Oron.
I take me come to go a tap. A fair tap on Modokara. And I'm there.
more good right here more good right here at the can xin ham để đủ được kia thì mình mới đã đây cái con thật xấu thì cái địa xin đưa về bà cứ vào đó đó em lại cũng để cái nhà này bự ấy mọi nhà này cho tạp của không mọi chuyện quan.
He's saying that it's true that there is the attack of shrine in Oron. As you must have heard from our own history, we were 12 clans when we moved up. That only 7 settled here. That the other 5 are dispersed in your country and Oron. And certainly the others, what we call the missing clans of Oron, are the people who have the attack of shrine in Oron. On the question of burying somebody alive in Oron and not selling him into slavery, he says that might be their own custom, and that he cannot just say why.
Okay. You say? You're asking?
I'm asking whether it is true. What is the truth in the statement that the women had the Ekpe before
Okay.
the men?
Ibarat cái việc phải nhà này phải cân ta đúng cô. Ini là mai cái bộ ibarat mình mai nó được cái điều họ để về mình em hỏi hết rồi. Và ai cũng về để về nhà sản thì bạn này ini là bộ cân ta.
Iko ni etang me ibuke Ekpe me ameke me dibo. Aka ro ikot aka mu Ekpe ni. E ba na ke nam de ba mi so ke ni. E ba na ke nam de mo ti mi so ke ni.
Bấm bỏ cái bạn này tự số đấy giờ tôi đang tôi đã bộ phim.
Okay. He says it is true that the women had the Ekpe much before and very early, and that when the men when they got at the woman who had knowledge of this Ekpe, that woman was slain, was killed, so that the men took over the Ekpe. Then I asked, how do we reconcile that with the story that the Odibo went into the forest?
Is it Odibo or Edibo?
Edibo
Edibo.
went into the forest and brought out the lions and tamed them. How come then that if that happened, that the woman should have the knowledge of the Ekpe? And he is saying that it is the production of the roar of the Ekpe. That is what the woman had knowledge of. In other words, this man tamed the lions and created the Ekpe. But to produce that sound, the roar, it was a woman who had knowledge of how to produce that sound. And to take over that sound, that woman was killed. It isn't Kedibo, Amaro, Korakamu, Benatang. I do Kedi issue Yumbo Kor. A woman I get you and I issue Yumbo Kor. And I will buy any town. Tradition that I told us that we have an oral tradition about this brave man who tamed menacing lions, and then because of that he was given the title of every Ekpe is named after him. Nkandadibo, Nyampedibo, and so on.
This is not the same as Debo.
Eh?
It's not the same as Debo. It's Edibo.
Edibo?
Edibo?
Is it the same one as
It's the same one.
Nyampe Dibo?
Yes. You talk Nyampe Dibo,
Yes.
Okbogo Dibo, Okwakama Dibo, Ebongo Dibo.
Okay.
Almost every Ekpe grade, you call it and then you add a Dibo to it.
Okay.
And the story is that this Edibo was the man who tamed the lions.
Okay.
And therefore, the idea of having the Ekpe started from him.
Okay.
So your question was, is it true that women had it? And the answer from the chief is that yes.
Okay.
It is true that what the women knew was, what that woman knew was how to produce that sound, the roar of the lion. And when that was so, in order not to give that knowledge to other women, they killed him. The men killed her, and took over.
Yeah.
Think about a comment, I'm more cool a depot. And then, men, you don't know, a summer dear.
The guy was going to get me every day. You won't make a car come with me.
So they must have called him to immortalize the name of Edibo, who tamed the lions.
Okay.
And you could even do. And then, Egwet, a younger, a woman, Egwet, and then I work a bit every day. It done it on I man. When you say for being what a good. And I ate a man cooking. And found in the Jung Tang in buying the Tanico.
Four.
Cave but I don't want to ban to. And then every year, no, I'm name one. Okay. He says it's not very clear. Maybe, could you repeat the question in case I'm not getting?
No. Upuni, who make a car come with me. If I put mammy a car, we welcome more.
It says that the significance of it is an honor done to two people. One, Edibo, who tamed the lions, and the woman who brought out the voice, the sound of the echo.
Okay. We're speaking of the Cuban Edibo drum.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And then everybody tell me, Abu, men see do a buana, Emi, Mberekbe, Anye, Yukuno, Yedi, Ndem, and attack when they were right.
I can't put me good walk on me. One got out of morning, a timber, a tap uncle, a timber, good one more.
Yes. He says that the sound, the voice of the Ekpe, which the woman brought, she brought it from the waters, and then the attacker is a deity that is believed to live in water. So that is the relationship between the Ekpe and attacker. Both are riverine.
They are one.
Yes,
They are one.
yes.
Pana bwana yin efo. Yiri mai bwana irong pere. Ndo tba. Efo edo uran edo efo. Yin etu uran esmefo. Yin etu efo esmoran. Ata pana bwana yin miki bwana yin bere.
Yes. Our relationship with the Efik stemmed from the time that we actually lived together. We intermarried. The Efiks married the Uruan people married the Efiks, and then the offsprings were really integrated. So that you could, let me ask him, take one to Yin at Uruan, I can make it over on Gaba.
Yin etu uran temba karabon egaka tu uran. Yin uran. And the dear bonker.
Come again, get him or two Uruan, a guy to a I can make it a bone keeper.
It's 2 uran. A cat to a guy said to run it to a
Come a dear a ye in a bucket to go bone, men down in a good on door, and ye in a maker. I can make it over bone. Okay. Okay. He said because of the intermarriage, then you find grandchildren could be kings in Uran and in the kingdom. In other words, the king, an Efik king, can have a maternal lineage.
Yeah.
Similarly, an Uran king could have an Efik maternal lineage. I asked whether somebody whose mother was Efik and his father, Uran, could be a king in Efik kingdom. He said no. It has to be, the kingship is on the patrilineal lineage.
Okay.
Being Efik, don't go.
Por modo traki buika ka ke traki ni iri ma apare mo yima kaba uran ente ya den ko se fa me ala ma so du me ko ran kai ki bon se ma kana ma idun ta pa se se na
Ado ki yata ye.
ki ya ke
Ere ma ro na ka pa ira ka bon yo se mo ko na ka ba.
mo
He says not long ago that they stopped it. That they stopped it with the death of Eddie de Morocco. And they don't allow the Uran people to crown them again. And that with the with the Uran with that, yes, after the crowning of Eridem Chimamaro, the Efiks don't allow the Uran people to crown them again, and that is not long ago. Then I asked whether that was in the lifetime of Abong Yumesin. He said yes, and Abong Yumesin was in some when he died in 1976.
Really? Okay.
So this thing must have stopped during the second half of the 20th century.
Kanta yin e ka se ko turuan den yin bi uruan ke ma de yeti kin ubon fo de ya uruan ke ya yin ya
Alo di mo yin yan di ya se pe jara.
mo ki ya ke ya
He says that
mo ki ya ke ya
the Efiks did not have the Intinya before. But when this particular chief, being the grandson of Uruan, became king, the Uruan people took the Intinya there and crowned him.
When was that? But what king was that?
It didn't even hear the back and I don't know so it started with Abongi Bang Kanta putting the Ntinya on Bakarabong, who was a grandson of Uran. We had in this discussion mentioned that the Effiks have cut off this story.
Of Ibanga, yeah. They start with Efio Mekpo.
So he said, the grave consequence of stopping the Uran people has been that when somebody becomes the king of the Effiks, he doesn't live long. Well, in my lifetime, I remember that the first king who was crowned by the Effiks and not by the Uran people lived for only 3 days. So, like that, a series about 3 or 5 of them died in quick succession when they stopped the Uran people from crowning them. And the Uran people believe that the stoppage of that linkage is instrumental to the shortage of the lifespan of the Efik kings. Maybe our gods need to forgive them. Munjiru Mura, okay. Okay. He is saying that Sungumonko is really a sort of an exclamation when you are playing, when you carry the murua. Murua are some sort of wooden rattles that will always hold and check. And when you're doing this, then you can exclaim, Sugumonko, Sugumonko.
Okay.
And not an Ekwe grade as such.
Okay. Sukumonko, so it's a shout, exuberant.
Yes.
Okay.
Just to remind them of the stop from...
Efi, Efek, Bibi, Bibio.
Yes.
Okay. That's true.
I am asking him about the ark of the Uran people, whether it has any symbolism or any connection with the Ekwe. And he says that before somebody becomes a chief, a paramount chief in Uran, he has to be fully initiated into the Ekwe. And because he has to be the custodian of the ark, the Ekuriku. So he cannot sit there if he doesn't do those things.
You're asking?
I'm asking why we don't find the lodges in the different places built. And he is saying that because that formerly we built the lodges of a mud and wattle and thatch roof, if they were made of bricks or blocks, perhaps they could have lasted. So now whenever we stay in a place, in a room, we use the ukat and to line or decorate the walls where we play. But that doesn't stop any groups who will want to build the lodges with permanent materials from doing so. Ekwe lodges.
What does?
The Christian religion discourages people from building Ekwe lodges. As a matter of fact, people who profess to be Christians would not would not want to be known publicly as being Ekpe initiates. And I also remember that in my church, the Presbyterian Church, 5 years ago, they brought a circular for somebody. They asked people to sign an undertaking that they had dissociated themselves from Ekpe and Ekbu and all the traditional plays, that they had become born-again Christians. Well, those of us like me said we wouldn't sign. And they take us to be very bad Christians. And there are some people who signed those papers so as to maintain the eldership in the church. And so with that type of thing, the people will not be very keen to do Ekpe lodges. I'm even afraid that in the far future, if we are not very careful, Christianity will have killed our tradition and the significance and symbolism of the Ekpe.
Yes, I didn't know.
First he asked me, what did they call the woman? What do they call the woman there?
Sikan.
Sikan. He says we call him Adiaipo Ofiong. And that when...
Adiaipo Ofiong.
Yeah, Adiaipo Ofiong.
Ofiong is moon.
Well, Ofiong is also the name of a person, but it means moon. Adia means the firstborn of a woman. The firstborn who is a woman is called Adia. So he says that when we have the Bora and you are playing it and you're making incantations and exclamations, then you can call the name Adiaipofion. Adiaipofion. That's how they call it.
If I could, very good.
If I could more work, any good report. In that article of Play Morua, he says that name Morua is given to that particular article by the FX that we call the Epo. Diary of the Michael Ibuke, a mother there, Mbribio, a card, a cake with it, take it and get back.
Take a say, he could take a run, yes, I could take it from Musa, take me and can come here.
It says what you see in Calabar on the one or on the side is that Ekpe has one bell at the back and not in front.
Yes.
That whatever you may see in Cuba they in front as bells are corruption of whatever they may be.
Yes, but can he confirm that in Ekpo they do that kind of thing? Is there any local tradition where they do many bells in front?
No,
He says we don't have any play where you have many bells in front, and that the Ekpo play that goes with the bell is called a yara, and even that one is at the back. Memory like I don't get for a friend. See back you don't then a quack. How do you run? You may food your friend you do either cake. A bread, mbre ekpe ke ana monyo ebe nekpe do ngodo eka Cuba eka gebre men tum kan gbo fendo se pe yon idiana atum bono fensi biti long yana me pa menyam mente
te kan prefer ye kutte pan te ya kan shudu kan wati breeder refer
yes
eri rumare ye bi yuran ye fo ngori bairem e shiem brabio mo everything.
Yes, he says that it's true that we're all one, and that what you see in Cuba, the little differences like the many birds in front, may be due to strangers who lived in Uruan and Efek, and then they made their own contributions into the Ekwe as they went there.
Okay.
Ibonda. Imeke kukama Cuba do ne ba ma kaka do me fo me so on de ke afra yi ma do so tu kama do do anya ki ba ma.
Ni ki ru le chi. Ni ro bi rin ka me. U ba yi ko ni mo so le so na ya le so.
Ala mga bo nyin te ke me yang bonji ki dai su. Ki ni ura sa ma ke. He confirms it, and he says that that certainly, as we moved along, the people who moved had to come along with those names.
So he's confirming the Cameroon origins of
Yes.
Uruan
Yes.
through their names Mosongo, Ibonda, Motaka,
Yes.
Etonko, etc.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, let me ask. I don't know whether we would say the name started there or when we came, because originally we were not Cameroonians. We came there. Then, let me ask. Ekeme enyebu kira do wo menyanga do ngodo nyanga do menyine nyima kedo nyanga tu kama Cameroon do. Mengma ribu. Kenyine kitu tu do. Me kira da nyanga.
Ye ki mi sama ye yang ni di.
Yes. He says we came with our own names. Well, there may be some likelihood that some corruption of our own names came in, but that we did not take the names from them.
So they go past even Cameroon, these names, earlier. Okay. The last time I came here, I was initiated here with both of you. Are there other non-indigens who have been initiated in Uruan that you know of?
Non-indigens, like foreigners?
Yes.
I tell you, my Maggie TV, everybody my friend, and there, Abba Missing will find me and they went to the boy, you make me send with them, fair way to remember what I wanted.
Kubana me kenye sa kubo ndi bana sene wonye ture enyaso ekwe. Nelkanta ana yakabare yendi tanyina me gudelo. Na me swabo ibana ye.
He says we are not very quick in Uruan to initiate foreigners into the Ekwe. But because you became mingled with our people, and then you got initiated by the Effiks, who are our own brothers. So we had no hesitation to initiate you.
Thank you.
Chẳng xí rồi mới nói cánh trái mà ý em cái nhà mới nói đâu là mới luôn là với sống rồi mà nghĩ đến rồi nhưng mà luôn nói em có cái sáng xí là cái đi đi cái mà mới nhang cái mà trong rồi sống rồi cái phần
Kemayo.
Eh.
Come on.
Yapap. Uran.
Away.
Where?
Yapap. Uran.
Where?
Yapap. Uran.
Where?
Yapat afiboku.
Where?
Yapat iboku.
Where?
Yapat iboku.
Where?
Go. Pabio.
Yayo.
Pabio.
Yayo.
Pabio.
Yayo. It is a song.
Oh.
Furan.
Where?
Oje ba akpe boku.
Where?
Etongongpe.
Where?
Mosongo.
Where?
Ibondra.
Where?
Akwa.
Where?
Mutaka.
Where?
Ekondo.
Where?
Oje. Bap Furan.
Where?
Kong Babio.
Yayo.
Babio.
Yayo.
Babio.
Yayo.
Yeah, if I'm doing a walk, I see, and I have to so on it, so I can leave it and look. And then I don't have a walk in the entire. I guess it goes some money. Every man never knows. Everyone goes some money. Then I'll be there. I see on bad. You can be.
Ije mbodi tinto. Kana teno mchana ikani ya wita.
I'm coming. You see?
Surely.
Truly.
Yes.
For someone.
Orongbe. Wodo ni.
Didem okuntiya young upon rough. Didem okuntiya one among young upon rough.
That's his name.
Mm.
Okuntinya. Young Pangorafia is given his name.
Yes. Can you say when he was born, how old he is?
But I came on the ark. So it's very fun.
My son Kiswa and I'm your friend ever.
I'm 97 years old.
He's 97. So he was
Yes.
born in 1908.
I want to come on again 1908. About Ghana, see, I guess where you got.
It's very correct from that yesterday.
Okay.
Pero yun yung magpana Kiswa. Kiswa itiaba, ite magpana Kiswa itiaba. Yung kung paano ba?
Okay. I asked him, can you describe in terms of the number of years of shift cultivation since we cultivate every 7 years? And he says that when he needs to sit down and count how many years.
Sheep. You say sheep? What cultivation?
A shift cultivation. In our farming system, we do shift cultivation. And when we cultivate on one area,
Okay.
we come back there after 7 years.
Slash and burning.
Yes.
Yes.
So I was asking him, can you count how many times
Okay.
that particular area has been cultivated since he says he needs to sit down and. Down for best, I'm a pay with 2 more. Many work is a room, but I guess you would make a film, but I guess it gave a monk. So good on here.
It did make it upon Raffia. It did me. A kiddy Raffia, a kiddy upon a boy upon them. You are as well as quite bigger. A man and a yen, and I'm more equipped. A yen more, sicky them boy man. Yema you to the Eddie Baby Yenisi, say this, can I? Yes,
the great great grandfather was they go
a kitty, Utam. Eri Bonapano, Abon Rotan,
Utang begat Utang begat Akpan Utang. Who begat Udo Utang? Who begat Ekande Utang? Who begat Udosen Utang? And then to Akpan Utang. This man young Udofia.
This man then the Yedi Bonabon young Akpan Utang.
Who begat Abong Ekpo Young Akpan Utang? And then Udofia Ekpo Young Akpan Utang. Akpan Udofia Ekpo Young Akpan Utang. Okay. Akpan Udofia Ekpo Young Akpan Utang. Then begat him Young Akpan Udofia Ekpo Young Akpan Utang. That is, he says that the teachers used to be the great grandparents would teach the children about their stock and genealogy, which was passed on progressively from generation to generation. So he is Njong Akpan Udofia Ekpo Onyong Akpan Utang. That's to say he's given altogether 7 generations.
Were all of them involved? Were any of them not Ekpe? Let's say.
Tradition.
They were both traditional chiefs and Ekpe chiefs. Abang nam fia weke sang edi isen fana ki tu berekpe ken te won po ke ite po fo ba si di tang e kalaba e bo ke de pe fe pe fia wo de mo ke tu edi no esu e ka e be no fo
te kirum bo ba fia ante sire ke mo ma ke di ma di ko ngen metete nyinero te yamo eko kamekpe mi awu ko de pe siri mbre merire okpu mi banke iwara kanwa kusene me ugrama mana pu iwara kanwa pu iwara ke in ma ke chudi e pante ke me mo mi yere si yimde ni nombo e kama ndem ko sonse ke ya kana ma di bop po me kute cosa di code ya cosa mai confan e non bon te mo daru e pe e bon pre kodo e di an po me mo pe di are ke wo ma.
He says that when they came, they knew that the Ekpe was used in instilling discipline in the society, and that non-initiates used to be beaten up. So they tried to persuade them and coax the chiefs not to use Ekpe in inflicting corporal and bodily punishments. And they said they were going to give the chiefs something to help them earn a living. And so instead they built what is now called customary courts and told the chiefs, you sit there, you can settle disputes, and then you can earn something rather than use Ekpe to victimize and intimidate people. That's what he knows about it.
Okay.
Edama mfia women ma ke tuka eke nwanwana edi fi mbonodo menyiro yaka mo ebrem mo etekedu iriongpo awedi nam se mo ke na ma do me ke ayuwemfo yesefo bokup afomeni mbokse kwetanga banga mkpose mfia weke sina mtu edi pan edi piat edu wumyen amenyen senyen kinye
ke semodi ale sikod ke mfia me ke wale de ikaranye ebo nyene du me baite nyene kenyere nsi ke pampo kere monde la yiku oman ukuru senyene kidari na mukumi kang ni kinyene ruba simene rui koruna mba simene yang de mo mari ko de bo kupuri kang ro bon tenyene ko kamba.
What he knows and what he has heard is that when the colonial masters came, all the weapons of war, weaponry were collected from them, seized from them, snatched. What they used for hunting and for any sort of prey were taken and seized from them. They said that those weapons should not be used on others.
Si kamade ye edi ambo orumo yimde woma esima mo fenu ite ekpemo tiru ekpe den mo kiri ma pan mo tom poro ipo wore ke yedin ta me mo ke menda ko sumai kore nombo ngati ekpe.
In the same way they seized the authority of the chiefs. For example, whenever the chiefs wanted to exercise authority, they could catch people's domestic animals for penalty and that type of thing. So they decided to stop it, and that was why they said, okay, come have the customary court, sit down here, settle disputes, whatever you want from the people, collect, but don't do this type of thing. Don't seize the domestic animals, don't beat them. So they took over the authority from them that way.
Okay. Thank you. You was telling me that in Uruan Ekpe tradition, women can be initiated.
Yes.
At a what? So how is that?
But it's ceremonial initiation, and that is done only to the first daughters. They can be given the ceremonial initiation, and then they enjoy all the privileges of the Ekpe. Obviously, when it comes to sharing the booty, we seldom consider the women initiates. But the privileges that she enjoys will be she can put on the feathers, we can put on the ebako and ebako, those things that are worn on the legs and
yes,
hands.
Yes, during the celebration.
Yes.
Can they wear ukara cloth? Ukat.
I have not seen them wear ukat as such, but if they have to prepare them, because the time they wear is in the sort of thing I showed you in the photograph, and that could be made of loin cloth. I think there could be no prohibition. They're using the ukat in making the nkpen.
Can they receive titles?
What?
Are they Abanekpe only, or do they go higher?
You know, when they're initiated, they're not just given a few grades for them to. They're given everything they want to give them all at once. And usually, when you give them the grades up to Nkanda, since they don't go into the secrets of the Ekpe, so you can give them all the grades all at once.
Okay. You were telling me about the photograph of Oku, who we just saw in Etim.
Yes.
Etim, Uruan.
Yes.
ETEM.
Etem Uruan.
Yeah, what's the town called?
Eman.
Eman, thank you.
E-M-A-N.
Eman Uruan.
Yes.
There was a photograph on his wall.
Yes.
That was during his initiation for Oku. It's not Ekpe.
No. You see, from what he told me, you know, if you are going to become an Oku Ntinya, that's the chief with the Ntinya. The tradition is that you must mature. You are initiated into all the grades of the Ekpe. You are initiated into the grades of Ekong. Ekong means warrior. Into all the grades of all the types of masquerades. You are a full man. Then there is what we call the Inam. In other words, if you are wealthy, you have to show that you are wealthy by feasting the community. And this time, when you have done all that, and then you are to be an Okuntinya. The next rite you perform is that you go into the bush. Nowadays, I will call it bush in quotes, because you are supposed to go into the bush for 7 days and 7 nights, and during that time you don't receive any visitors. And then women don't cook for you. It's only the men that cook for you. That is what used to happen. But I think it has been modified for the last and some. Instead of sleeping in the bush, you stay in your own house for 7 days and 7 nights with the elders. The secrets that the elders have will be revealed to you. You'll be told those secrets that the elders have, so that you become a full custodian. Then we have the ark of the clan. That ark, well, you know what an ark is. It contains all sorts of things, all sorts of traditional regalia that depicts the culture and the customs of the people. They put it into a form of a stool, and then that is where the man sat down. After you have undergone those rites, then they bring it out, you sit on it. And there was a sort of round thing. I asked him what it was. It's a shield to depict he had performed the ceremony. And on the ground lying in front of him, he said those were elephant tusks.
And a sword with
Yes.
Nsibidi on it.
Yes. So then they put on the crown on him, the Ntinya on him, and you know, he was not clad on the body, on the trunk. He was clad from here on. It's just the sort of photograph I showed you the Nsam underwent. Do you remember it? Yes.
Okay, what is this now, Chief? What is this?
Monyo. You were talking about Monyo.
Yes.
So the one used by the Ekpe people would be a big thing in the form of an ark, which could planted
An ark or a scepter?
in the form of a scepter, which could be carried along women in their own place.
Okay.
So it's made of wool. All these things, wool, wool decorations.
Will it have feathers in it? Will there be basonko there?
Yes,
Where does basonko go? At the top.
at the top. Let me.
Now this staff could be moyon,
I'm describing what the Moyo could be.
but there has to be something. Sonko will be put there
Yes,
in the end.
yes.
The transmitter, divine transmitter. Okay, thank you. Cardinal, you're saying what do you need to do to take Atak more else?
Yes,